Okay, hey everybody, another interview. You guys asked for them, so I bring them to you. Thanks for tuning in. This week we have a band on from North Carolina, South Carolina, I think, Carolina something, New York.
New York, New York now.
New York now. Illicitizen, is that? Did I say that correctly?
Yeah.
Illicitizen.
Okay. I passed it around. At first, I passed it around with everybody in the inner circle. Said, pronounce this, and we had ill citizen. And I was like, no, it has to be illicit, like illicit, illicitizen, correct?
Correct.
Okay, right on. You guys are now in New York?
More or less.
Originally from where?
Well, we both were in Charlotte, North Carolina previous to this. Although neither one of us are originally from there.
We started in North Carolina,
Yeah.
and I moved back up last November to New York, and Eric's since relocated as well.
So New York is better? Is New York better for a band?
It can be.
It's better for a lot of reasons for me.
Let's talk about you as a band before we get into like some of the other things I like to ask people. You have this band. Do you have more than one album out? I know that we talked about Feathers and Wax on our blog. Do you have any more albums than that out?
Yeah, we have our first record we put out in June of 2010, The Economist, Illicitizen.
I listened to Feathers and Wax. It was on the blog. I think it's really cool because there's nobody else out there, I think, doing what you're doing. You have a definite sound. Lyrically, you do something that nobody else is doing. I don't know how to put my finger on what it is though. Do you have like something that you tell people like when they ask you what am I listening to? Like it's definitely something that no one else is doing, and that's not a good enough description for me.
We were hoping you could tell us.
Well, I could tell you what I kind of think, and you can tell me what I'm wrong, if I'm wrong, or if I'm right. It seems like there's a political type of vibe to it. Like you guys are maybe not trying to change the world or take down like point fingers at people, but it seems like there's a little bit of that. That you obviously are aware of things that maybe mainstream people may not be aware of lyrically. Like it sounds like maybe you tell a story about stuff that's going on that people aren't talking about. Am I kind of right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a lot of topical content on both the records that are. Yeah, I think that there's a fair amount that isn't reported widely.
Sound wise, it's just the two of you, correct?
That's right.
So there's no drums on this, is there?
No live drums. It's all programmed and sequenced.
So who does all that, like writing wise? Like you guys do it together, or?
Well, we each take a hand in the writing of the music. It's about 50-50 on this record. And I pretty much do the additional orchestrations, any strings or horns that you might hear. I write those parts, and we share equally in the drum programming. On this record, we kind of tended to go more with what's in the box already and then embellish it, as opposed to starting from scratch with the beat. Because there's really a lot of good stuff in Roland. He's a pretty spry little drummer.
Mm-hmm. How do you do something like that live? Do you just push play on something and then go, or do you have some?
Maria keys up each song, and while I'm doing my witty banner, if I have any, and it hits play, and we have a little intro, and there's a few songs that actually probably start without the drum machine, and we started into the song, but mostly it's you get it going. So there's very little wiggle room as far as I repeated that chorus twice. Just none of that because the drummer's just going to go on with the program.
Keep playing. That's cool. What kind of response do you get from that? Personally, I think that's really neat because like that's all beforehand. It's kind of like you have to prepare for this kind of shit. Like there's no like. let's just go up there and rock, like let's just jam. It's a difference between what you're doing and what somebody that just gets over there and jam, jam band, yeah? Like there's thought process in all of this. I like it. How do people other than me, how do they dig that? Like how do they respond to that? That's kind of how people do it now, right? Like everybody does that, right?
I think it's a pretty favorable response, especially up here. There are some places that, their vibe and what they really like is more of a live drummer, and that's where they're concerned. But New York is very open-minded. I think people's reaction is, wow, all that came from two people.
Yeah.
Obviously there's no drummer up there, but they're also hearing big swells on choruses and other parts. So the reaction is very favorable. And we've even had some people off in a corner of a club go, I thought there was a drummer.
Yeah.
People who like music are very into it.
Yeah.
I try to make people think I'm doing all that with the guitar.
Yeah. That's hot. I mean, it's like a puppet show kind of. Yeah, it's cool. It's art. I love it. That's what I think is why I think it's really cool. So a show of yours is what? You two and a drum machine?
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys put on like a bigger show, or is it just you guys just stand there and do your thing?
Define bigger show.
Maybe that's the wrong. What would somebody expect to see from a show of yours? I think would probably be the better question.
Well, it's typically me singing, dancing around like a maniac with a guitar, and being kind of eccentric, and Maria being very calm back there, just kind of like steering the ship with the bass guitar. I think that contrast works out pretty well. We have been noted to unload and carry in the most amount of gear for a two-piece band, for shows where there's no backline or anything like that. We have a lot of trips with the hand truck, but, yeah, I mean, I try to, engage the audience and talk about things and arrange the songs, the order to, a lot of times Maria will like, oh, this just happened, let's put this behind the set list, and, just try and make contact with the audience. And
the drum machine idea, I think, is really cool. You just said set list, and this is something I haven't ever been in a band. I talk to bands, but I've never been in a band. And the way bands work things has always intrigued me. And I had a band on a while ago called Dads, and one of the things that we touched on was how they create their sets. When you have your drum machine, does that limit you to how you're going to do it, or is it limitless? Like you have a bunch of tracks, like you go, oh, okay, this is the track we're going to play, set up, or can you stop and like change in between, or is it?
Oh yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I'll change the set list. It just depends on the audience. I mean, you can overthink it too much, and in the New York scene, pretty much you go in and you play, and there's not a whole lot of room for stopping and pondering anything. So sometimes it's a snap decision, but if you feel like one song's going particularly well, and if I look down and see, well, I think I'll just play this one, I just spin the dial. I usually go in with a rough idea based on the amount of time I know we have. But again, if I'm getting a certain vibe, I'll pick another song.
Yeah, it's really a matter of her just queuing up the song number, and
letting the guitar player know.
Yeah, sometimes letting me know, and just playing that, so she doesn't have to really, other than choosing the song and pushing play for live playback. There's no real programming live. The device is really set up for more of a DJ centric. That's just not our sound.
You brought up the New York scene, and one of the other things I like to talk to about with bands is what their types of scenes are. Earlier today I talked to this band called Twin Peaks from Chicago, and the sound that I've been picking up from them is really lo-fi, garage type of sound from there. I spoke to this band Bad Cop from Nashville recently. There's like a really heavy rock, blues, guitar-driven vibe going on there right now. Houston is this band I talked to there is very shoegazy kind of thing going on. What is it that's going on in New York right now?
It's a diverse,
It's very eclectic.
it's typical New York. You can go, a block in any direction and hear something completely different. I haven't found a really coalesced scene. I mean, there's still a lot of, giggling kids with ukuleles and the kind of indie clubs, but there's also a lot of, places we'll play where we're like, oh, that guy played violins with the Velvet Underground. He's in there playing by himself. That's weird.
It's also very cool because there's one particular club that we love to play, and on any given night, you just don't know what's going to happen. The promoter has people come in who've been, as he said, icons from the past, just showing up and sitting in with somebody. So there's such diversity here. We're still discovering so much about this scene right now.
What bands in New York right now that you've seen around should people be listening to other than you?
Well, I like Paper Argus. They're a husband and wife duo, and I think they've got a very interesting sound. They use pre-recorded drum tracks and instrumentation as well, so that's why they caught my attention. And they're from South Carolina, actually. They're young and very fun.
What is there a I just lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. Do you guys tour, or is it strictly just you're doing shows in New York, just different clubs?
We used to tour quite a bit, and we tried. When we lived in Charlotte, we tried actually making a lot of stops in between Charlotte and New York. And if you just do the math, it got to be where we could play so many more shows up here once we got here that stopping in between, it really just didn't work out. Booking was much harder. That's probably the best thing about being up here is booking is, once you kind of proven yourself as a competent artist, entertainer, whatever, you meet people and it makes it easier to just get shows. And so it was easier for us to get shows here than it was even in Charlotte. And we had kind of like set shows that we would play every month down there, but we'd like to play more than that. And so yeah. Now we haven't, we've been as far out as St. Louis and Memphis and Chicago and as far south as Savannah, Georgia. But right now we're just kind of concentrating on trying to get our feet here.
What do you have coming up after this? I mean, I know we have Feathers and Wax. Do you have anything else coming up?
Yeah, we're pretty well on. This is kind of like a trend for us because by the time we released the first record, we were already pretty much playing live most of the second record. And while we're not really playing a lot of the songs from the third one, I think that we've already got written quite a bit of the material.
I'd say 2/3 to 3/4 of the first one's already
it's still in a rough state, but we typically never stop writing.
How does that work for a band that plays a lot like you guys, the writing process? Is it that, like during the day, like, you go out and you just, let's try this track at this club, and if it's people respond to it, then it's like, aha, we're going to save this one? Or
I think that originally that was my concept, but we kind of disproved the whole play testing in between the first and the second record because, there was stuff that we didn't record on Feathers and Wax, just because we had new material we felt was more, it fit in with the rest of the songs. It was just better. And, it just seemed like, well, we've only played this song twice live. Let's go ahead and record it on this,
Yeah, there were a couple of last-minute additions to Feathers and Wax, and I just had a bee in my bonnet that I wanted them on the CD. I'd written them and felt like they were good enough, and we started playing them out, and we didn't really have a chance, as he said, to play test them, but I just felt very strongly that I wanted them on this CD because they were kind of important to a place and time, as all of our songs are for us.
And we get tired of our own stuff pretty quickly, so it's like, I've got an idea. And working with the drum machine, I mean, even when we were in different locations, and we could do like a little quickie recording, and like, hey, here's my part with the drum machine, and send it, and then the other one could practice with that, and so that makes it a lot more portable. And I mean, there were times where I was driving back and forth from here, where I had an idea and I would sing it into my phone, send it to her, and I would do a little beatbox into the phone and go find a drum. And before I got into the next state, she was sending me back a recording
with a bass line,
a drum line, and saying, "By the way, you're singing in key A, and you're only singing one note in the chorus. So how about you mix that up a little bit?" So it helps to have somebody who's your writing partner who's on the same page as you.
That's fun. One of the things. So this new album, it will be your third album, is what you're saying? When can we look forward to hearing that?
Well, that's a good question. I don't think it'll take 2 years, like between the first one and the second one. I think it really matters.
I'm going to be conservative and say 2 years, but probably sooner.
Yeah.
Probably realistically, it'll probably be 2014.
I know that Feathers and Wax is on Bandcamp, and you sort of have a presence on a lot of the sites, right? Like I think you have your own website. Where you're on Reverb Nation? Is that one of the ones you're on?
Yeah. We're simply everywhere. We're on Reverb Nation. We're the Facebook stuff, and the 1rpm.com is our kind of online focal point for a lot of things. And they basically do what TuneCore, CD Baby, or a lot of those companies do. They get it in all the other stores, iTunes, and music, and Amazon.
So we can expect probably the way that you release this next one that way, correct?
Oh yeah. I mean, I had a lot of fun designing the artwork and putting the packaging together for the second record, but and I love having physical copies, but Spaces, we're not the only one suffering at Spaces at a premium, and having physical copies of everything gets to be crowded, and especially like small New York places. But I very much appreciate having things.
Yeah.
1,000 songs on a little brick.
Yeah, I think that's pretty. It's a weird vibe. Like I spoke to somebody earlier today, and their whole vibe is there doesn't need to be a physical copy of anything. Like his whole vibe was like, I was, talking to him, and he was like, I don't believe that there's a need for any physicalness of anything. This is what his whole vibe was, and I appreciate it. His is like, I make the tracks, I put them online, and they're out there. And if you want them, that's how you get it, and that's what we got. The conversation started with how I get like albums in the mail, and then you'll open up this vinyl, and there'll be a piece of paper in there that says go to this link and download the album. And I laugh about it. It's kind of like the album sometimes, or the vinyl is just some sort of promotional tool versus the physical music itself. Sometimes I wonder, I put albums on to see if there's actually stuff on it, because it just comes sometimes like it's like a business card or something, nowadays. And I appreciate the tangibleness of the vinyl, but at the same time, I understand that it's 2012, 2013, and and sometime in the future that'll be, nothing. You know what I mean? Like the tangibleness will go away. It's a trip. We play this game here with me and the intern called Who's Cooler. We take a listen to the albums, the most recent album that's out with the band that we speak to. We pick the song that we think is best off of it, and we tell you, and we're hoping that you'll tell us who's cooler by the song that we picked. You guys down to play that?
Sure.
Okay. So we listened to Feathers and Wax. Mark, the intern, he picked Helicopters as his favorite on the album. And I went with Epsilon. Who is cooler? Me or Mark, the intern?
Well, that's
Oh, I think you're both cool. I'm sorry.
That's cool.
Because they're very, both songs are very unique in their own ways. And,
that's something that is a byproduct of everything we do, is we tend to not tread over the same ground twice. But I don't know. I'm thinking I have to go with the intern because
he's very fond of that song.
I'm really happy with the way Helicopters came out. That one almost didn't make the cut.
Yeah, I wrote that, and I was tired of it 2 days after. I was like, I can't. It just wasn't going. You know, they take on a life of their own, and that one wasn't growing up the way I wanted it to. I was ready to abandon the baby. But and I love Epsilon because I think it's an incredibly clever little song.
Yeah.
Who wants a love song to a star? I mean, a real star up in the sky. So you win big points with me for getting that.
Okay, so I'm just going to chalk this up for Mark the intern being the cooler one on this one because he gets 1 vote from both. So, Mark, that's 2 today. 2 out of 3 today. He's cooler so far. Maybe I'll win the day. We'll see. I do ask everybody that we have on the show a few questions that I like to ask them because I think it gives me a good sense of who they are because it's questions that I like. First question is, unicorns, are they overrated?
No, I disagree. I think if they're farting out rainbows, then maybe not so much.
Yeah. Favorite alcoholic beverage?
Beer.
More specifically for me, Guinness.
Nice. Have you ever been so drunk you fell down?
Pardon?
Have you ever been so drunk you fell down?
Today or?
I try to start my day on the ground so that I work my way up. No.
Yeah, I have. It's been a while. It's like a friend of mine used to say. I woke up with something on my shoulder. It was a parking lot.
That's funny. What is the weirdest things about you guys?
Weirdest thing.
I don't know that we're all that weird, are we? Gosh, I have a hard time answering that. What's the weirdest thing?
I can wiggle my ears.
Oh well, not everybody's weird. Not everybody's weird.
I weird most of my life, but I really couldn't put a finger on it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm one of those dudes that has to lock the door like 3 times. Like I unlock the lock thing. That's my.
I've got all kinds of weird.
That's my my trick.
Describe it all.
What's your favorite curse word?
Oh, it has to be fuck.
Yeah, hands down. The F-bomb.
Fuck you, motherfucker.
Just
fucking asshole.
Tied up all different ways. It's a very versatile word.
Yeah, it's like the Lego of swear words.
Yeah, I love it. That's one of mine too. I asked that question because I think that is the quintessential curse word, and when someone says something else, it always trips me out. I'm always looking to see what the other curse word is. What is next for you guys besides this new album? You guys touring? You guys got shows and stuff?
Yeah, we have a show in September at Goodbye Blue Monday in Brooklyn, September 7th, I believe.
Something like that.
Yeah,
7th or 9th.
No, it's the 7th. It's a Friday. And the Ding Dong Lounge in Manhattan on October 6th. I'm not really sure who we're playing with at either one of those dates. I'm currently doing some booking now, but I'm still trying to get my sea legs up here because I moved up here rather quickly, and so I've still got things spread around.
You guys are you guys on a label or are you guys just DIY?
We're DIY, but that's really just due to necessity.
So
we're not really anti-label. We're just.
So you're not.
No,
Okay.
We're determined to get our music out there. We're not going to wait around for somebody to pick us up. We're just going to keep doing what we're doing because we feel compelled to do so.
Cool. Yeah. Do you think that you need to have a label nowadays?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think my finances are kind of in shambles, but I'm doing better than a lot of the record labels as far as the amount I've lost or the percentage of money I've lost. I mean, I don't pretend to know an awful lot about it. I used to think I did, but I think to actually, you almost have to make it really before they even pay attention to you, unless you're some kind of generated artist from them that they grew in the lab and put out there.
Yeah. Where can people find you online if they're looking for you?
Illicitizen.com is where our electronic press kit has, and that has links to everything else. And we're on our Facebook is facebook.com/illicitizenband. Those are probably the two most up to date and current stuff.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell the world before I let you go?
I already mentioned our two shows. Buy our record.
Keep supporting local music. Keep supporting independent bands and people who do something out of the ordinary.
Because if you don't, they'll just, move to New York.
You guys want to cut a little bumper for me for the show? Like, hey, this is Illicitizen. You're watching Beneath Everything. Sure. You can say whatever. Feel free.
Hi, this is Illicitizen. You're watching Beneath Everything Radio.